Now, the Trump administration has just announced that they will end asylum protections for most Central American migrants. Now, this is according to the Washington Post, quoting the Department of Justice and Homeland Security. Now, according to the rule that will be published tomorrow, asylum seekers who pass through another country before reaching the United States and not asking them for asylum will be ineligible for asylum when they reach the southern border. So understand that this will impact just about every migrant from Central America. If you come up through Honduras or El Salvador, Guatemala, and you don't, apply for asylum, for example, say in Mexico, or if you're from Mexico, which that's not what the majority of where the majority of migrants are coming from. They're coming from, again, Central America, but the Trump administration just sees them all as little Mexicos. I mean, it's crazy. So, if you don't apply for asylum somewhere else, well, then we're not going to let you in. I mean, that's crazy. And it's obviously definitely a way to prevent people from those countries, or at least delay them in coming here. Now, there are exceptions. Under the rule, those who have been victims of trafficking have been granted exceptions. It also allows exceptions for migrants passing through countries that have not signed major international refugee treaties, and for migrants that have been denied asylum in the countries they traveled through. So there are some notable exceptions in there, but basically through this legislation, the Trump administration is saying, not our problem. Not our problem. It's somebody else's problem. We're going to make you deal with it because we don't want to take these people. And that's the whole plan. We don't want these people, and that's what they're saying. Now, the Trump administration officials described this as necessary to reduce the burden placed on the U.S. by the growing number of immigrants seeking asylum at the southern border, by allowing agencies to more quickly process cases by weeding out individuals trying to, quote, exploit the asylum protections. So, first of all, we need to reduce the burden onto the U.S. By these immigrants. You know who's more of a burden to the U.S. right now? Billionaires. I know that's a strange look. Billion. What are you talking about? So there are people, these corporations that don't pay any taxes, like Amazon, that end up getting a refund. That is way more of a burden on the U.S. system than migrants coming in. I mean, there's no comparison here. So that's a joke, an absolute joke. The other joke here is that, there are people coming in, they're trying to exploit asylum. Really? Is there any proof that a large majority of people are trying to game the system? Maybe one or two, maybe a couple here and there. Sure, of course, human nature, right? But there is this, I guess, myth that, there are very, very large numbers of people that are coming in just to exploit the asylum system so they can get into the United States and then what? Profit? I don't know. But anyway, now, Attorney General William Barr said in a statement, quote, "The United States is a generous country, but is being completely overwhelmed by the burdens associated with apprehending and processing hundreds of thousands of aliens along the southern border." And no, I don't mean the aliens from Area 51, which that's a separate story. Now, here's the thing, right? So Barr says, look, our system, we're just overwhelmed. We got to do something about it. The thing is, you created that problem. You made it so that that it would end up this way. And by you, I mean Donald Trump. So now, first, Donald Trump puts in a zero-tolerance policy at the border that effectively caused the mass arrests of anyone trying to come to the border. Now, look, is there a crisis? Of course. There is a crisis. There was a lot more migrants coming through. And so, look, I understand that there is that part of it that is not Donald Trump's fault, that, of course, we have a spike in migrants coming across the border. It was the same thing during the Obama administration, 2014, when you had large numbers of unaccompanied children that were coming through, and, of course, we had to do something for it. Now, the problem is that Donald Trump took an existing problem and then made it worse. And now is saying, well, now that we've made it worse, which we're not going to admit that we made it worse, Now we're going to come up with a way to keep more migrants out. And so we've got to change the asylum rules. We got to change the asylum laws. I mean, we just have to, because we have this big problem. Not only that. Okay, so again, this is another way Donald Trump created this problem. He cut off aid to Central American countries like Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. That made the conditions in these countries, which were already bad, even worse. So now you have even worse poverty. But the Trump administration, with these new rules, they've got a plan for that. They said the rule they will decrease forum shopping by economic migrants and those who seek to exploit our asylum system to obtain entry into the United States, while ensuring that no one is removed from the United States who is more likely than not to be tortured or persecuted on account of protected ground. So, hey, man, at least, at least if you're being murdered, or you could be murdered, then we might, let you stay, even though the Trump administration, and this was a big story a couple of months back, I think, where there were transgender migrants who were sent back to their countries and then ended up dying, being murdered. So congratulations on that. Hey, isn't that the kind of person who was persecuted that would be perfect for asylum? Weird. We ended up sending them back and they got killed anyway. Well, I guess if it's a transgender person, the Trump administration just does not care. I thought they were going to be great on LGBT, as Trump said. Not at all. Not at all. But look, economic migrants. And so this is the distinction that they're making, right? Economic migrants are people that are basically fleeing massive poverty. What the Trump administration is saying is, if you're poor, we don't want you. Well, I mean, they've said that before. They're like, well, yeah, obviously, if you're poor, you have nothing to offer. Really? Now, some of the most famous people came over without a cent in their pockets and ended up creating great businesses in America. So you don't know. You don't know. If you were poor, though, Trump is saying, I have no interest in you. You cannot come over, no matter what possible great ideas or how hard you work. Don't care. You're poor. We hate you. I mean, it's super gross. Now, in addition to ending asylum protections for most Central Americans, the rule also adds a new hurdle for asylum seekers as they go through the legal proceedings. It would require officers and immigration judges to apply this new bar on asylum eligibility during credible fear interviews. Credible fear interviews. Now, the rule applies only to those who enter or arrive in the U.S. on or soon after the rule's effective date, which is to be expected on Tuesday. Not much time. So here is just another way the administration is making it more difficult for asylum seekers to come to America. Again, if they have traveled through Mexico and are poor, they're ineligible. This is against international law. But more importantly, and this is the point, it's basically not going to allow children to claim asylum in the United States. Why? Because these kids don't know the rules, right? They don't know the rules. They don't understand that they can't, go through another country without claiming asylum or asking for asylum first. And of course, children, they don't have any money. So they could be called, economic migrants by the administration. And it's just another way to keep them out. I mean, this is really serving the white nationalist agenda. And why do I say that? It's because it's because of the claim that many on the right wing make of they're bringing in people from these Central American countries to replace us. And who's us? Well, you guys probably already know. And this, again, these actions are all a response to that white nationalist, that racist rhetoric. That's why they don't want people coming here. That's why they want to drastically reduce not just seeking asylum or illegal immigration. No, a lot of their moves also would restrict legal immigration. It's got nothing to do with our resources. We're spending $775 a day on each migrant to hold them in, these camps, in these cages with a foil blanket. These camps also happen to be operated by private prison corporations in some instances. Yet these conditions are terrible. Why? Somebody's making money off of it. And not only that, but look, the cruelty is the point. They want conditions so bad that people won't want to come here. All the while, they continue to restrict legal immigration and have their friends in corporate America make a buck. It's nativism, it's white nationalism, it's racism, and it's all on display right here. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.